Hey guys, Assalamualaikum. We are from Group Fabulous 4 and today our presentation topic is translation of function, which is fx. Okay, so if we talk about translation of function, we need to draw a graph. So this is how we draw a graph. First, you have to reflect it and then you have to shift. Okay, so as I said earlier, if you want to draw a graph, we must reflect first and then shift. Okay, for the reflection part, from this equation, y equals to negative fx. The negative fx indicates that the graph needs to be reflected about x-axis. Okay, moving on to the next part. Y equals to f negative x. This means that the graph is need to be reflected about y-axis. Okay. The next one is the general form for horizontal and vertical movement, which is shifting. Okay. So it is y equals to f x minus h plus k. Okay. If you want to look at the vertical shifting, we have to look at k. Vertical shifting. Okay. If you want to look at the horizontal shifting, we have to look at this. Take a look. So, let me tell you, want to shift vertical upwards, want to shift vertical downwards, and horizontal left or horizontal right. Okay, for horizontal shifting, we have to look at H. Okay, from this equation, this part. If H units is more than 0, it is shift to the right. If modulus H units is lesser than 0, it is shift to the left. Okay, for vertical shifting, we need to look at K. Okay. This part. Okay. Okay. Shift outward K units if K is more than 0. Shift downward modulus K units if K is lesser than 0. So, let me show you an example on how the shifting occur. So, f x plus 3 minus 6. Okay. So, the general form is f x negative h plus k. Okay, as you all know, negative h equals to 3. So, h is negative 3. H is lesser than 0. If it's lesser than 0, it means it shift to the left. Shift left. 3 units. Okay, moving on to the vertical translation. K is equal to negative 6. So K is lesser than 0. Okay, so if K is lesser than 0, it means it shift downward K units. K is 6, negative 6, right? So we have to modulus negative 6 equals to 6. It means that this function will shift to downward 6 units.
Okay, so the next one, we move on to exponential function. Next, I will explain about linear function. So as you can see, the basic function for linear is fx equal to 3x. The example for this for linear function is gx negative 3x in bracket. As you can see, the function is already factorized. First, you need to factorize. You must make sure the coefficient of x is 1. So, you factorize as usual. As you can see, you will get negative 3 bracket x minus 1 negative 1. Okay. Pause. Can you pause? Okay. So the example for exponential function is this one. Okay. We need so the basic function for exponential is fx equal to 2 base e to the power of x. Okay. So we just factorize and make sure the coefficient of x is 1, and then we find the y-intercept and x-intercept. Okay, for this given function, the y-intercept is 2e negative 2 to the power of negative 2 plus 3. Okay, for x-intercept, the x-intercept is not included. Tak ada x-intercept sebab it will not be valid. The value of x must be always positive, must be bigger than 0. Okay, so to back to the factorize or defactorize punya function, positive 3 indicate that we must shift the graph upward by 3 units. Okay, so as you can see, the horizontal asymptote will be equal to 3. So we just draw here the horizontal asymptote, and then for the x punya ni, we refer to this one, x minus 2. So we shift the graph by to the right by 2 units. Okay, so and in the end we will get this graph.
The next function is the square root function.
As an example, this equation. So first of all, we have to factorize this, so the coefficient of x will be 1. So it means that our basic function is square root 2x. So f x plus 2 minus 2. As we already know, x minus h plus k. So we have to make this equation into this. It means that we have to shift to the left 2 units and shift downward 2 units. So the next thing is we have to find the y-intercept and the x-intercept. The y-intercept, we have to substitute the x equal to 0. So we have cert 4 minus 2, which means equals to 0. While x-intercept, we have to equal all the equation to the 0. So after some calculation, we got the x equal to 0. So the graph will be shifted to the left 2 units and downward 2 units. So we have to make our graph from the point crossing the y-intercept and the x-intercept, which is the origin.
The next function is the rational function.
Our next function is the rational function. So we got this function. So our basic function will be 2 over x, which means that f x plus 1 minus 2. This function told us to shift to the left 1 unit and downward 2 units. So we have this translation. The next thing is we have to find the x-intercept and y-intercept. So the x-intercept, this equation must be equal to 0. So after the calculation, we got the x equal to 0. While in y-intercept, we have to substitute the x equal to 0. So we have this calculation, which makes y equal to 0. For the graph, for the rational graph, the translation will make the asymptote move. So the asymptote will move to the left 1 unit and downward 2 units, which means that the new asymptote will be at the position -1, -2. So the graph is drawn by crossing the x-intercepts and the y-intercept. So the graph will cross the origin and the other one will just...
Okay, so next will be the quadratic graph and the cubic graph. Okay, so first one is quadratic function. For example, negative x squared plus 2x plus 3. From here we can see that the basic equation is x squared. So for quadratic function, the first thing you need to do is CTS. After doing CTS, you get the function to be negative x minus 1 squared plus 4. This negative 1 indicates that there's a shifting to the right 1 unit. And this plus 4 indicates there's a shifting upwards 4 units. And for this, there is no reflection, but however, the A is negative. Therefore, the quadratic function will be in a maximum form, which is macam muka
Ni lah macam ni.
macam tu. Okay, so after that you need to get the x-intercept. To get the x-intercept, y equal to 0. So after you substitute y and calculate, you get the x-intercept to be -1 and 3. For y-intercept, the x needs to be 0. So once you substitute in, you get the y-intercept to be 3. So you get the graph to be like this. First, you plot it as the graph will be shaped. The next is the cubic function. For example, x minus 1 power 3 plus 8. So first, usually you need to make the x equals 1. For this example, you don't need to because it's already 1. This indicates that there's a right shifting to the right 1 unit, and this shift upwards 8 units. From this equation, you can see that the basic function is x power 3. So next, you need to get the x-intercept and y-intercept. For y-intercept, the x equals to 0. Therefore, once you substitute it in, you get y equals to 7. And it goes the same for x, but this time it's y equals to 0. And then you get x-intercept equals to -1. Therefore, you get the graph to look like this. There's a shifting upwards 8 units and shifting to the right 1 unit.